3, 2, 1, go.
Alright guys, welcome to another crash course, Nomad Sculpt 1.85. So let's just jump right in. So first, let's go here to the scene menu. So this is where all our shapes are going to be. Let's hit add, and then let's add a cylinder. So let's take this green dot and bring it down to the red line. And then we're going to take this green dot and just bring it up a little bit, maybe around there. We're going to tap these three dots, and then we're going to go over here. And I know this all looks very confusing, but all we're going to do is see where it says post subdivision. We'll move that up to 2, and maybe we'll scoot this down to like 60. That's it. Just tap validate here. And now we have our little platform. So we have two meshes. We have a cylinder and we have a sphere. So let's rename the cylinder to be the floor. So we tap these three dots, tap name, and I'll just put FLR for short. Then we have our sphere. So let's bring that up. So we're going to use the gizmo. The gizmo is just kind of like a controller. So you just control the 3D objects. So you tap gizmo. And then there's this little green arrow. We're going to use that to bring it up. And we can get rid of this grid. We don't really need it anymore. So I'll get rid of that. So now we have the gizmo. This orange ring is scale. Obviously the arrows are left and right, but it's 3D. So if you turn, there's another blue arrow to go front and back. Notice I'm tapping with 2 fingers to undo, just like Procreate. And then there's the blue rings. The rings are all for rotating. And the little tiny dots, these dots are for like stretching. So that's all the gizmo is. It's just a controller. So you can just control your shapes. Another thing is this little thing that I keep hitting. So if you're off and you want to go back to the front, you can just tap that and it will go back to the front. So let's bring our sphere up. Maybe we'll shrink it a little bit. And let's go back to our scene menu and let's rename this sphere. We'll go to name. Let's just rename it head. Okay, let's add a cylinder. So now we have 2 cylinders, I guess. So we'll tap these 3 dots and let's do the same thing. Let's bring this to 2, post subdivision. And let's scoot this down to maybe like 30 is good. So we'll scoot that down to 30 and then we'll validate. So validating is when you add a new shape, you have to validate in order to use all the regular tools. So let's shrink it with the orange ring. We'll move it up. Maybe we'll shrink it a little bit again, like so. Yeah, so we'll do something like that. I like it. So let's hit front again. Okay, so now let's give him some legs. So we'll tap the scene menu, add, and let's do sphere. Okay, so obviously we can validate to use the tools, but there's also mirror here. So let's just take their gizmo before we validate. And if you tap gizmo and the gizmo doesn't pop up, sometimes hidden here in 1.85, there's a little gizmo, so you can tap that and then you can control your sphere. So let's shrink it first. We'll move it up a little bit, and then we'll move it over with the red arrow. And let's shrink it, or let's squash it a little bit. Let's turn to the side. And then let's stretch it out a little bit. So something like that. And maybe do we want him to be a little bit taller? Or is this, I think this is pretty good actually. I like this. So we'll keep him here. You can make the legs a little bit bigger or smaller if you want. You can kind of move them a little bit over. I think that looks nice. Let's hit mirror. So now we have 2 legs. So now let's use this. And so basically we just mirrored a sphere. So when you use all these tools, it's happening on one of them, but they're both going to do it. So we don't have to do 2 legs, we can just use 1. So let's shrink it a little bit. There we go. So now so if you go to the scene menu, you have a mirror here. So that these are our 2 legs. So what we can do is tap the mirror and then hit validate. So then it's gonna essentially validate those shapes, and those shapes are here, but you can press mirror again and then you can validate it. And now it just says mirror. We can rename that to legs. Okay, so and let's do a mirror a second way because sometimes that can be confusing. So let's add another sphere and let's validate it. So when you validate it, the gizmo pops right up. We'll move it up. This will be one of the arms. We'll move it over to the left. And then we'll use the orange ring to shrink it. Okay, so let's move it closer to the body. And, you know, what shape do we want this arm? Let's go ahead and shrink it a little bit this way. Maybe we'll stretch it with this little green node. And then we can use this ring, this inside ring. Oh, and you know what happened? You have to be careful if you hit this snap thing. So what snap does is it snaps it to a certain degrees. So that's why when I was turning, it's like snapping it. So, but we can just tap that and turn that off. Mine was probably on from a different project. So we can just turn the arms and kind of maneuver them into the body like so. It's not too bad. We'll make them a little bit thinner here. And let's use one of the tools. So let's go into the tools. There's a bunch of tools here you can play around with. Some of them are self-explanatory. Some of them are definitely not, like project, which I need to learn. There's actually a lot of them I need to learn. So when I learn them, you'll learn them. So let's hit move. So here we have the radius. So that's how big the tool is. And here's the intensity. So that's how intense the tool is. So we'll do about 55. And the radius is about 170 or so. So make sure you're tapped on the arm, because anything that you're tapped on, that's what the tool will be, using. So if you tap on this, so let's tap on the arm and let's just kind of move it into the body a bit. And this is another way to control your shapes. So you can move things, you can shape things, you can kind of make them how you want. But I kind of like that. I think that looks kind of cute. So once you have your arm, again, I was mentioning mirror. Stuff on my screen. So let's mirror this to the other side. So, and that's a great thing because then we don't have to do 2 separate arms. So you go to the scene menu. We have our sphere. Let's go ahead and rename it. Arm. And then we can mirror it to the other side. So we just add, and these repeaters, we want to add the mirror. So you add the mirror and it shows up on the other side. And we can go ahead and hit validate, join children, and yes. So now this mirror is both of these shapes, and all we need to do is rename it. I wish that it would automatically take the name, but it doesn't. Okay, so now that we know how to do that, let's do the same sort of thing, but let's use a new tool. So let's use the tube tool. So let's hit path. Okay, and you should have B-spline. Yours will probably look like that. So let's turn it a little bit just so you can see. And let's say we wanted to do like a tube coming out like this. So place your Apple Pencil or your stylus on the screen, drag, and then let go. Now place somewhere else, touch the screen, drag, and then let go. And you can keep doing this if you need to. I'm going to undo. Oh, I guess it doesn't undo. Interesting. Well, if you want to get rid of the nodes, you just drag them into each other. So you can undo. So let's say we wanted to have something like that coming out of the head. We'll press the green button. And of course, we'll mirror it so there'll be like 2. But let's say they're like kind of like ears or antennae or something like that. You can move these little nodes around. This little orange node will make everything bigger. So let's say we want something like this. think I want it like kind of like that. Maybe it gets a, and let's say you like this, but you want the back to be a little bit bigger. So what you would do there is hit radius. So if you tap radius, you see there's 1, 2, and 3. So if you hit 2, now you can control both of these ends. So you can make that a little bigger. And 3, of course, that just means that you can control all of them now. So pretty useful. And if you wanted the back to be rounded, it can be a little tricky, but I'm going to show you anyway. So let's tap the 3 dots. We want to put the post subdivision to 2. And then we want to drop this topology. You can just tap this and then just hit 4. So now it's round, but you see that it's like, it kind of shrunk it a little bit. So it's a little finicky, but it is round. And one thing you can do is turn the post subdivision maybe up again, maybe up to 4. And then it's a little more shapely. So we'll make that a little bit bigger. You can still control a little bit of the inside, but okay, I think I like that. Okay, so we have our tube ear, so we can go ahead and mirror it with this mirror here. So now we have both of them, and let's go ahead and validate. Okay, so now we have 2 of those. Everything looks pretty nice. So let's add just some really simple eyes. Okay, oh, we have this mirror here. Anytime I have this, now that I have the ears, I'm just going to go ahead and tap on that and validate, and yes. And then just rename it ears so we don't forget what it is. You should save often. CC 1.85. Okay, so now we're saved. So let's add some really simple eyes. So let's add a, let's do a sphere. And we'll use the gizmo. We'll bring it up, out, and then we'll use the big orange ring to shrink it. Like so. We'll move it over a little bit, and let's hit mirror. So now we have 2 eyes. And I think I might want to flatten the face a bit. Let's see, if we move these in, let's see how they look. Oh, they look okay. Maybe I don't need to flatten the face. I think that looks pretty good. So do we want to just let's give him or her a mouth. So let's tap on the head part and let's use mask. Okay, so mask is great. You can see that you can kind of like draw on your shape. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to turn it a bit. And let's just make something like this. Okay, so we just make something like that with the mask. And then we want to hit invert. So we hit invert, so now everything else is dark instead of what we colored in. And then we'll use gizmo. And then we can push this back so we can make like a cavity for the mouth. So now we'll go back to the mask and then we'll just clear it. And then we have that cavity there. Now we can still see these eyes. You can see the eyes. So an easy way to get rid of that is let's just validate the eyes. We'll go back into the scene menu. We have our mirror here. So same thing, validate it. Yes. Okay, so now we can rename them eyes. Okay, we have our eyes, we have our mouth, but we want to get rid of those. We want to get rid of inside that mouth there. So let's use the trim tool. We use the trim tool and we'll use lasso. Lasso is just so you can draw around anything any piece, let go, and it cuts in that piece. Okay, so now we don't have anything there. Let's give him a tooth or her or teeth. So let's hit add. Let's add another sphere. We'll use the gizmo. We'll move it up. And we'll use the blue arrow to bring it forward. And then the big orange ring to shrink it. And it actually shrinks kind of right into the mouth. So we'll pull it out so you can see it. Maybe make it smaller. And then we use the little blue dot to kind of squash it together. And then we can squash it this way, and I think that should work as some teeth. So let's move it into the face. There we go. I think that works nicely. And if you want, you can shrink it even more, move it over, and you could hit mirror. So then you would have two teeth that you can kind of adjust as you need. I think I like two teeth. Maybe I'll just keep it since I did it. So again, validate. Then I'll go up here, tap the mirror, validate, make it official, and then just rename it. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good. I mean, this is a cute little character that we made really easily with shapes. The only other thing that I would do is let's voxel remesh. So instead of having a bunch of different shapes, we'll just have it as one shape. Maybe with the exception of the eyes and the floor and stuff like that. So tap on the head. So we have the head here. We have the cylinder, which is the body, which I didn't name. Oops. So we have the cylinder. We have the legs, the arms, the ears. And I think that's it. I don't think we want to put anything else together. But these pieces we can. So I'm going to do a quick save. It's telling me to go to sleep. So then I'm going to do a voxel remesh. So you can go up here and tap voxel. And you see here the resolution. So we want to do probably maybe around 175 or so. And then we would hit remesh. You might see me do it from up here because this is just a shortcut. If I just pull up there, then it's the same number. So we'll just hit remesh. Okay. And now they're all one solid piece. So we'll go here to our tools. We'll use smooth. We'll make the radius a little bit bigger. And we want symmetry on. And you see we have symmetry on, so we don't have to do both sides. It does it automatically. And let's just smooth this out. So we just smooth it, and then it'll look really together and natural, and it'll look like one solid piece with a little marshmallow body. I'm a fan of the marshmallow body though. I think it's cute. Now for the mouth, you want to be a little bit more delicate because you don't want to lose that much, you don't want to lose the shape. But if you do lose it, one way you can try to get it back is to use drag. So I'm going to bring the radius down a bit so that the brush is, so something like this. I'm going to keep symmetry on so we can do both sides at once. So now let's say we want to make him a little happier. Maybe we'll make this a little bit bigger, and then we can just kind of adjust the shape of the mouth with drag. And it might take a little practice, but you can kind of get it looking how you want it to look. But I think that looks pretty good. And also, if we want, we can put a little tongue in there. So ear is now the whole body. So just remember that we have to rename it. So let's rename it body. Mesh is the eyes. So let's rename it eyes. Tiffy's floor. Okay. So let's give him a little tongue. So we'll just add a sphere, same thing. Gizmo. Move it up. Big orange ring to shrink it. Now let's move it forward so we can actually see it. Whoops, I'm gonna undo. Got to be careful when you're using the gizmo. Sometimes you can turn something when you mean to move it. So just be careful of that. So we'll just make him a nice little tongue, and then we'll just put it in there and put it down towards the ground, and we'll use this little red ring to rotate it down. There we go. I think that looks cute. So now he has a little tongue in there. You can flatten it if you want. Cool, so let's give him a little bit of color, or let's validate the tongue. And we'll go here, and here's the tongue, so we'll just rename it. And I'll do a quick save. Okay, so now maybe I want to make him like a chocolate color. Or maybe we'll make him like a green. Maybe we'll make him like a, I don't know why I want him to be green. Kind of like a cute, ugly doll. So roughness, you can turn your roughness up and down. If you want it to be really shiny, you turn the roughness down. If you obviously want it to be rough, then you turn it up. We'll do about 0.5. So we'll do about halfway or so. Paint all. But you can choose whatever color you like. No, you know what? Maybe I am going to do like a more of a chocolate color. Even though the other color is similar, I just really like this color. I like orangish. So paint all. That's good. So the body, let's say we want to give him a little tummy that's a different color. Something that I do, rather than paint it, I like to paint things, but a little trick is just to add a sphere. We can validate it, and then we'll move it up and we'll shrink it. Move it out. We'll shrink it again. So now I want to use this little blue thing and this little blue node, and I want to squash it so it's not sticking out so much. Yeah, so something like that. And then I'll use the move tool, and then you can sort of just manipulate. You can manipulate it so it looks a little bit more. And then we'll use smooth. Smooth is a good way to manipulate it as well, because you it'll kind of soften it up. This looks a little weird on the bottom. Let's see if we can fix that. Let's bring that up a little bit, maybe. I don't want it to look strange working on his little package. Hey, that's not too bad. Oh, that's okay. And actually, if I want to, you can also move the body. Instead of moving that part, you can kind of push the body in a little bit. If you like the belly there. I want to make this a little more round here. There we go. That looks good. So now we can take this little belly and we can make it a different, whoops. I'm trying to hit the front here. There we go. You can take the little belly and you want to tap here for the colors. And then you can just choose your color. Maybe one just a little bit lighter. And then we can hit paint. Okay, the eyes are going to stay white, so we hit here. Let's go to white, but let's make them glossy. So we turn the roughness all the way down and hit paint all. The eyes can be white. I think that looks fine. Let's make sure we paint them white. The tongue, let's make a pinkish color, but we want a little roughness. We don't want it too glossy. And we also need pupils for the eyes. So let's add another sphere for the pupils. So we'll add a sphere. I use a lot of spheres. I love spheres. So we'll move it up, forward, we'll shrink it, then we'll move it over, and we'll push it into the eye. Maybe over a little bit like that. I think that looks good. We can make it a little bit bigger. Perfect. And let's make this, we'll make it like a, yeah, kind of like that. We could make it glossy. We'll make it glossy. So now we'll hit mirror, and then we have it on the other side as well, and we can kind of adjust. You can kind of adjust it. Maybe you wanted the eyes to be a little more ovular. You can do that. It's kind of interesting. Part of me kind of likes it a little bit like that kind of plastic look is kind of cool, actually. The eyes do stick out a little bit, but I kind of like it. Normally I would make the eyes a little bit flatter, but I kind of like it. So let's use another tool. Let's use Inflate. Inflate's a great tool. So here are my radius settings are about 70 or so. Intensity is about 50. A lot of this is just like the default. You'll make sure I'm on the body. And now we can just go around the eye. Like that, and it'll give it a little bit of something. And kind of smooth it out a little bit with the smooth tool. Like so. I could have made the mouth a little bit bigger. But either way, I think that looks really cute. I like it. And the only other thing that you can do that I wanted to show you is if you use paint, and now we're on the body, you can add a layer. So right up here, if you tap there, you can add a layer. And let's say we want to grab this color. So we go to the colors here, we tap the eyedropper, and then you can go, it'll kind of hover over whatever color you're doing. So then we want to grab that color, and then we can change it. We can make it, let's say, darker. So we made it a little bit darker on the paint tool. So now, turn this radius up. And if you wanted to color certain things, you can kind of color them however you want. You can have fun with it and color it different things. And if you want to try to smooth it out, like that smooth line, take the smooth tool, tap it, and hit clone. And then you can rename it you want, smooth 2, hit OK. Then it shows up on the bottom. So then go over here and turn this intensity all the way down. And then tap on that tool again and then hit save. So now you have this tool which you can adjust the radius, and hopefully it smooths out the color. Sometimes it doesn't work if the model is very dense, but it seems to be smoothing out pretty good. We'll smooth this out too. Sometimes I like to go red and paint on like maybe a little bit of, oops. I'll make this bigger and then I'll just lower the intensity of the paint a little bit. Kind of do that a little bit. And then go back to our smooth 2 and then try to smooth this out. Now it's a little too red, but the great thing about layers is you can adjust the opacity of them. So now maybe we just want a little bit of that. Just a touch. And last but not least, let's change the color of this little thingy here. Maybe we'll just, yeah, that's a good color. Just change the color. Any color works. And as for lighting, let's tap this little sun here and let's turn the environment off. And then we'll hit that light there. And let's turn this intensity. Let's put that up to 2. Perfect. And let's actually turn post-process on. So we'll have a better idea of what our model will look like when we're done. So tap this little thingy here. If you have a powerful iPad or tablet, you can go ahead and turn this up. If you don't, you can leave it down a little bit. But let's hit post-process. And here's my settings if you want to look at my settings. Okay, so back to the lights. So let's go ahead and just move this light out of the way a little bit. So let's hit the gizmo and let's move this light out of the way. Now it's a little hard to move, so we'll just hit align. So then we can just move it straight over, maybe up 2. So that's light number 1. We tap this little sun icon. We have this light. Let's just rename it key. And let's hit this button to clone it. And then let's move this one over. And then we can take it off of align. And see this white arrow? So that's where the light is going. So we want to use these rings I want to use these rings to kind of point at the character, but from the back side. And then we want to move it so we get that nice rim light. See how it's just like a nice bright rim? We can turn the intensity up a little bit. And I think that looks nice. So we'll go back to our lights and we'll rename it rim. Okay, so there's other lights that we can add, but I think we'll just go ahead and turn on the environment. And yours might be a little different. Yours might be one of the ones up here, and that's fine. But just adjust it so it's not so bright, so we still have some shadows. So I'll leave it about here. So tap on the body, and then tap here, and tap from opaque to subsurface. And subsurface looks pretty good. I'm going to put mine at around 0.1242 or so. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm just going to hit view so I can see our little character. And now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And to export, just go down here. Now these exports are for 3D apps. So for example, when I bring it over to another app on my computer, I use these. To export a photo or an image, you go down to render. Transparent background, that changes whatever the background is. For example, if you wanted to change the color of your background, just hit here and hit this number or this color. And then you can adjust the background to whatever you want. Maybe something nice and warm like that. So that's how you change the background color. But let's go back here. If you want to not have it, just have it blank, then you would just hit transparent background. And then you can obviously see the different sizes. I'm going to go with screen. And then we just go down to export. So then you just press this little button, and then you can save it or you can send it. I'm going to send it to my computer. And that's it. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that was helpful. I can't wait to see what you guys make. As usual, tag me. Let me know what you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing this character, but also just like all the cool, weird stuff that you guys make. I love it. Tag me on Instagram, subscribe, like the video here on YouTube if you got something out of it. And I'm going to throw this model up on Patreon because I threw all my models up on Patreon. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Stephane and the great update for Nomad Sculpt. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.